All right, here we go with another landscape drawing. This one's a detail, and this one's going to be quick. It's a tracing. Details usually are not dimensionally accurate. They're just there to give information to the people in general that are going to be doing the construction. So this will be a trench detail. So in doing so, I've got, though, still my library resource file is open and it's ready to go. And I'm going to start my new drawing. Turn off my grid. Always start with units. You can see we follow the same thing. Decimal, all this is going to be fine. We really don't need too much on this one. And now we're going to use thick thin again. So let's get my thick and thin pulled into the drawing. And it's time to save it. File, save as, trench detail. With your initials at the end. So I'm gonna show you some things. Often you would just import this directly into your file and use it if you owned it. Sometimes there's minor changes that have to be made and things like that. So there are cases when you will do a job like this where you trace over something. It's not super common, but there are cases. So we want you to have had that opportunity. So I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to insert, and I've saved that little file. There's my civil pipe trench. I know it says civil, but it's really landscapers are usually doing this kind of stuff. And it really doesn't matter how big this is at all. It means 0. So I'll just put it in there like that. Now I'm going to be drawing right over the top of it. So here's a little trick. I'm going to make this sort of transparent a bit. So if I click on it and right click, properties, there's something called transparency. And I'm going to set that transparency for 50%. Enter. And see how it got nice and light? I can go even a little bit more, maybe even 70%. And now it's nice and light, and I can draw right over the top of it, and I can hit escape when I'm done. I can still see enough that I can draw and go right over it. Okay, so I'm going to put myself on the thick at first, and I'm just going to draw some of these lines. I'm going to make sure my ortho is on, and it really doesn't matter how close or how far off you are. You're just going to go and do some tracing. It is nice to get that straight across. Okay, now I'm going to need temporarily some sort of boundary for this hatch. So I'm going to do it, and I'm not going to be too fancy. I'm just going to do some straight lines. I'm going to undo my ortho. And it just doesn't have to be fancy at all. Just going to come down here, over to here, and then kind of up. Doesn't even have to be straight. There. Okay, and then I see that I've got a circle in there. So if I find the center, and I just need to be close. And I'll do another one that's a little bit bigger. So that's a pipe that's buried in the ground. And then I see that there are some little lines going across. Probably a little bit over the top of the pipe. And that should be perpendicular. Let's make sure I've got my perpendicular on. Going straight across into it. There we go. And this one also, it's got to be down below that a little bit. And then I'll go straight across here. And then I have to do a little bit of trimming. Remember, that happens a lot where we draw too much and then we take some away. There, that's the drawing. The drawing is ready. But now I'm going to put my hatch in there. My hatches do go in this model space. So my hatch is going to go on the thin layer. Okay, and we haven't done a lot of hatch, but here we go. Here's the hatch button. And I can just pick different ones. This is Earth. So if I click my little arrow and go down to the E's, I will find Earth. There it is. And I'll click inside. And it looks pretty good, but theirs is kind of twisted a little bit. So I'll give it a little bit of an angle, 15 degrees. There it goes. And it looks pretty good. So now I've got my Earth. And at this point, I can take these little lines away. Or I could put them on no print. Or I could leave them. It won't really matter. This thing, foundation, where required. What kind of hatch are we going to use for that? I just need something that kind of looks like it. Kind of looks kind of squarish or something. Maybe this honeycomb thing would look good down there. Oh, I need another line. I need a couple more lines. I need a line across here. And I need a line across here. There we go. Now I can hatch that area down there. And I'll do this honeycomb. Click. That looks pretty good. And if I want to change the size of it, maybe I'll make it 0.75, a little bit more compact. That looks good. And then the rest, I think that that's probably gravel. So I'm going to put gravel in here. And that gravel is way too big. Whoop. I did too much there. Let me do it right. Where's my honeycomb? There it is. And 0.75, I want it a little bit smaller. Won't really matter. And close that hatch. Now I'm ready for my other hatch, which is gravel. And that looks too big too, so maybe 0.25. Or it might be sand. So you can also look for sand, which is under AR sand. And I can never tell. 0.01 is 2. So it's always hard to find what size. That looks pretty good. I'll make it sand. That looks sort of like it. And I'm just trying sizes. I ended up with 0.05. They have different scales on them. And then I need some sort of little stripey thing here. So let's get the little stripey thing. That could be this ANSI 1, and that looks too small. 0.25. There we go. So we're always playing around with those to get them to look right. So there's my drawing. Okay. And I'm going to put this on the no print. Well, I'll just eliminate it later on. So let's see. Now I need my layout. And I think this can be on a landscape A or a landscape B. So let's just put it on a B size. Let's see how it looks. Go to our no print. I need a no print layer. And I'm going to need a dim text layer. No print, layout, rectangular. Wow, that's even looks like a good size. I don't need to pick a scale. If it looks okay, these are never scaled because it's just like, well, there's a ditch. This is what you do with it. So that looks okay, but I'm going to go into my model. I can make it 1-to-1. What the heck? That looks okay. Lock it and go back to my piece of paper. Now my text styles are probably going to be civil or architectural. Let me bring in the architectural one. And my dim styles will be also architectural. Okay, there we go. I'm kind of ready to start putting some of these things on here. Let's go back to my home. Let me show you. I'm going to just show you on some of these what to do. Like here's a diameter, and your diameter is not going to come out quite right the same. That is okay. Diameter. See how it doesn't really quite come out right? They are different. That is not a way that you can do it anymore. Okay, but I can do that and it gives me the same information, but I'm going to double click on it now. Let me get it on the right layer to begin with. Dim text. Let me make my dim text current. If I double click on it and go to the end and backspace, that's gone, and I can go B, C. Close the text editor. There we go. Sometimes these old styles don't work out right anymore. Let me do this one right up here. That one's a linear dimension. I just hit escape to get out of that. Double click. Go to the end. That's my arrow key. Backspace. Caps. Excavated. Enter. Trench. Width. I didn't do a very good job with my typing. Close the text editor. And then that's fine. And it's okay if the line doesn't go all the way across. Okay, so that's how we do those. Okay, this one over here is just a line. So I'm going to draw a line straight across. And it's just text. DT. Enter. Spring line. DT. Find my point. Find my height. 0.09. Enter. Enter. Spring line of pipe. Enter. Just click somewhere outside of it. If you want it to be bigger, right click, properties, and you can go with your text height, 0.18 maybe. There we go. So this, when you're tracing, you're just kind of doing your thing to make it kind of fit. This one, now this one is really interesting. Let me do this one. Okay, so I'm going to come in here, backspace, and I'm just going to put a couple of spaces in there. Enter. Now I'm going to do text again. So this looks pretty good. I might as well just copy it. Put it right into place. Double click and write whatever it was I was supposed to write, which I can't see, so I've got to move it. Right, foundation where required. Click outside of it, click on it and move it. I'm using the grip to move it into place. So that should give you your method for finishing this up. The last thing to do once you have everything in there, you can either erase your image or just move it. Once you've got it, I think you can just erase it and move it. And look, I didn't rename that. That should be landscape. There we go. So this one is a very simple one, but it has a lot of new cool things. It's got hatch, it's got modifying text, it's got a little bit of the idea that it's really not to scale in any way, and it's got the idea that you're just trying to impart the important information. There we go.